Hi folks, I've decided to make a short video here about how I grind or what I've ground with lathe tools with this thing here, which is called the Black & Decker RTX. It's a Dremel type rotary tool. They don't make them anymore. They quit making them a couple years ago. You used to be able to get them for 30 bucks. They have a 2 amp AC motor. Dremels have 1.2 amp or 1.3 amp DC motors. This thing is noticeably more powerful than any cheap Dremel. It goes from slow, I don't know what the RPMs on that, it's not very much, maybe, I don't know, 500, and you can get it. They can go pretty fast. I never use them fast. With Diamond, I almost always use the slowest speed. This is a Diamond wheel. I use it to cut. I'll put the magnifying glass on here now. Below here is a bunch of stuff I'm going to be showing you in with the magnifying glass on there. Okay, this is the Diamond wheel. It's just cheap. It's just a cheap wheel with diamond soldered onto steel with I believe it's nickel. And basically, I use the flat edge. They call them cutting wheels, but you don't really cut with them. I use the flat edge for cutting flats or doing stuff like cutting flats. Now this is carbide. Probably needs sharpening. I can't see that because I don't. The screen on this camera is only 1.5 inches, and I can't see what I'm doing. Can't even get it in focus. But this is one of those cheap carbide brazed on things, and you just keep sharpening them. No big deal. I'll show you how easy it is here if I can get it in focus. We should be sharpening into it. This is where I'm not when you're doing this because bad stuff to inhale. But anyway, that's how I do that. And this diamond will gobble up tungsten carbide like it's butter. Here's a more dramatic one. You got to be careful making small tips like this on these guys because carbide chips easy. But then there are all kinds of different tools, diamond impregnated tools, and they're cheap. I mean, well, they're getting more expensive now, but they're still really, when you consider what you can do with them, they're really cheap. And I've been using these things for quite a few years, and I make everything I need with them. Now here's a small boring bar. I can't see it if that's in focus. I'm sorry. Here's a small boring bar that I just made out of that's a 4mm high-speed steel shank. It looks crude, but it doesn't matter. The tip is what matters. Now I cut that for a particular reason. I don't know what. But for a tiny hole, for a boring bar, there you go. I just cut off I had a broken carbide thing. I drilled a little bit small hole in there and pounded that in. Works fine. Now another one I made here. This is a internal threading tool. If I can get that in focus, I gotta put on different glasses so I can see what the heck I'm doing here with this tiny little. Okay, this is probably dull now, but that's internal threading. Now, did I use it that way? I can't remember which way. Oh, wait a minute. I can't remember which way I oriented it. But anyway, this is ground to 59 degrees. It doesn't look like I might have been turning it backwards, you know, the backwards way of doing it. Spinning the lathe backwards and using this for the cutting edge. I can't remember. But what I did was I took a piece of 5/16 square stock and cut a groove in it, again with the Dremel thing. And this is 1/8 inch high-speed steel blank. And I can put this in and adjust it to the length as long as I have enough screw on there to hold it in, or a plate across the top. And see how that fits in there and holds it. And then I have this cutting tool. And I use this. Now bear with me, is this the one I made? I believe so. I made this nut because I bought one of these guys used and it didn't come with a collet or the chuck. So I made this nut, and I gotta open that up. I'll be right back there. On that mini lathe. Or was it this one? No, it wasn't this one. This is one of the regular ones, the bought ones. I'll get the other one. I don't know where that is. I've got several of these laying around, but anyway, I'll show you what I cut. I made a screw, a cap screw, or whatever you call this. See, this thing is 2 leaves. Just a collet chuck with just, oh no, it's got 4. The collet chuck, and you can get different sizes. This is for 1/8 inch. Anybody who works with Dremels knows what this stuff is. But this particular RTX, this thread in here, whoops, that thread is 9/16 by 40 TPI. It's an extreme oddball. So you can't get a tap. So I had to thread that inside of that cap, and this is what I used. And I'll just take this off again. I'm sorry. I never prepare for these things, and I always make terrible videos. But anyway, this is what I used to make the internal threads on a Chinese mini lathe. I tried using this old Tony method of using a 40 TPI tap. It's a 440, which is a very small. I think it's about a 1/16 of an inch. So and use that tap as that threading thing. If you check out this old Tony videos, he shows how you can use a tap with the same size thread, no matter how thick it is, as long as it's smaller than the hole, to tap, to use it to cut the threads, which works really good. But that 440 is such a small 1/8 inch tap, I bent it when I tried to use it as a threading tool. So I ground this guy to cut those threads, and I made the cap. I had to make a taper in there for this, in the tip, and then cut those threads, and that's what I used to thread it. Works fine. It's crude. My stuff is all crude, but it works fine. Here's another crude but works fine unit. This is just a piece of, I'll measure it, I can't remember. I think this is 1/16. Yeah, 1/16 of an inch by, well, that's been ground down, so, but you can get these cheap high-speed steel bits at Harbor Freight. They come in a little pack for like $5, and you get oddball stuff, like pieces like this square, which is 1/8 by 1/8. I think you get some 1/4 by 1/4, and you get this 1/16 by whatever it is, 1/2 inch or something. And I use that for my parting tools. I wish I could get that in focus. I use that for my parting tools. And how I did that is I drill a hole in them with a diamond saw, and I got these little holders on the side. Squeeze it in there so I can pinch that in my tool holder. And this is my parting tools. They work fine. Another thing I do, which I'm tempted to show you on camera, is I will make that, this one here I didn't do it on because I wanted to part with leaving the tip parting thing when it comes off on the work, so it cut clean to the middle in the work that I parted. But normally I grind the edge of that tip like a saddle, and I use a tool like this, only smaller, and I just grind that in there a little bit on the right angle, and it makes a little loop-de-loop, and that works a lot better for parting. You see the carbide tips have a little saddle type thing on there. Now this is carbide. I cut a little bit of a radius in there as relief for something I was turning. Obviously I don't recommend that, because once your tip gets dull you have to grind that whole edge off to get back a new tip. But for certain things, if you want relief, like it's shaped like this, that'll cut really well. So that's carbide cut with that grinder. Here's another. Well, this one's awful, but I do a lot of experimenting. I screw up a lot of stuff, but I don't care. I buy cheap stuff, and when I screw it up, I learn and grab another piece or fix what I did. So it's that easy, folks. And then here's a form cutting tool that I made. Again, I'm sorry about the video, the focus. It's very hard. This is a $10 camera and it's fixed focus. This is a form cutting tool that I made with these same Dremel things by hand, freehand. It's easy. And if you don't take advantage of it, you're cutting off a whole big part of being able to make stuff. So I guess that's it as far as what I wanted to show about that. Thanks, folks.